Dana from Williams, Arizona.
Dana right here.
Over here? Whose phone is this? Oh, that's yours. That's yours? Okay. I just want to see the time. Hi, everybody. My name's Dana, and I'm an alcoholic. I am absolutely grateful to be here tonight, and it is unbelievable to me that yesterday I celebrated 25 years of sobriety. And unlike Brina, I do say no to stuff. I learned that in about year 20 of sobriety. Thank you. Thank you, Duke. So where to start? I grew up with a very healthy fear of alcoholism. Some of the key people in my life, my grandfather was probably the most prominent, was an alcoholic, functioning alcoholic, and funny as hell. I didn't have a relationship with my biological dad. I mean, he was busy, but I knew he was addicted to marijuana. And I grew up the formative years in Utah, and I was very involved with the Mormon church, and I'm very grateful for the morals and values that gave me. So that coupled with the healthy fear of becoming an alcoholic or addicted to pot, coupled with the fear of burning in hell if I did anything. I was a really, really good kid, a really good kid, until I wasn't. I was a child bride. I got married at 19 years old, again, largely because of the influence of the church, and I was just kind of, at that time, believed that's what my, I was put here to do. So I had my first son at 20 years old, went through my first divorce at about 23, and after that divorce, I was the person everybody would take their kids to, take them to Dana's because, I didn't really do anything. And then I got divorced, and I wanted to be skinny. And while I had a healthy fear of alcohol and marijuana, nobody ever told me about methamphetamine. And I'm sorry that this is a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I went straight there. And I can tell you that from the first time I used, I never didn't want to be high. I absolutely fell in love that day. And I was very naive about all of it. I had no idea that in addition to losing weight and cleaning out the garage, separating the kids' toys, all the food stuff was with the food stuff, all the cars was with the cars. Eventually, I lost my house, and then I lost my car. And before losing the house, I had a boyfriend that I bought a house with. I bought my first house when I was 23 years old. And he asked me, he, said, I feel like maybe you've done meth. And in my mind, because there were a few signs. In my mind, I was like, very casually said, yeah, I'm 23 years old, haven't really ever drank, I don't smoke the marijuana. Yeah, I did a little meth. And his reaction, my mom's reaction, every normal person's reaction was absolutely horrified, because apparently they weren't as naive how that was going to affect my life. So I got asked to move out of that house, and I'm not sure why, but I did. I think about that now, and I think, Rick, you couldn't kick me out, so. So then I went back to Old Reliable, went back to live with my grandma, divorced, just not being responsible really for the first time in my entire life. I should add that during that time, my mom sent my brother to live with me because, I had my shit together. So we were both homeless. So sorry about that, Joe. So he had to go somewhere too because he was in high school and, needed a place to stay, an address. For the next several years, I did not give a shit about anything except country line dancing, new boots, not my kid. So what better time to get pregnant than then, right? Sounds perfect. So I got pregnant, and I too, all of those things that you're just disgusted by, even as someone who's drinking or in active addiction, I was pregnant with my youngest son, Hunter, and I could not stop doing drugs. That'll forever be the single most mortifying, regretful thing that I've ever done in my life. And I share it because that's my story. That's my story, and if I could change it, I would. But for anybody that might not be done yet and finds themselves down the road in that same situation, you won't be the first and you won't be the last. And I don't use that as an excuse not to tell the truth, not to tell his doctors the truth when everything that's ever happened to him his entire life, I think, oh my God, is that why? Which they always say, no, it's not, but thank you for sharing. His poor girlfriend comes from a pretty normal family. So welcome, Sammy. Welcome to the crazy. But that was part of my story. So I called my mom and I said, I need to come home. She still lived in Utah at the time. And I remember her saying, okay, honey, if you want to come home. And I said, I don't want to come home. I need to come home. I am not very nice right now. I have, I'm pregnant. I have no idea how far along I am because it's not like I had any prenatal care. But I do know that I'm so pregnant I can't hide it anymore. And it's getting harder to line dance, obviously. So come get me. So she did. She drove out, picked me up, took me back. I was absolutely miserable to live with. Mom, I'm sorry. I love you. Had to go to the University of Utah for all my appointments because I was high risk because I was about 8 months pregnant with no prenatal care, no baby daddy, and weaning myself off methamphetamine. But by the grace of God, I had a somewhat normal, healthy, clean baby. And I don't know how. I don't know how because I was just sure that I was going to get what I deserved. And I didn't. I didn't. He was the easiest, cutest, sweetest baby that there ever was in the whole world, hunty. So I stayed there I flew out to California to show Hunter's dad, Hunter, to which Hunter's grandma looked at him and said, he doesn't look like any of my kids. And I said, so we had a DNA test and it really is in the right family. Went back to Utah. I was, working. And it was only a couple months. It was a couple months, and then I was like, obviously I need to lose weight again. I just had a baby. So I came back to California to lose weight, and I did. I lost some weight. Went back line dancing. They were like, "Where have you been?" I said, "I had a baby." They said, "You don't look like it." I said, "I know." Snapped right back into it. And that's where I spent every night of the week. I remember one time when I was staying at my grandmother's house before she didn't let me stay there anymore. I felt like I can't tell her I want to go out again. So I snuck out the window. I locked my bedroom door, snuck out the window, and went line dancing. And then I came back, and the little box was moved that I was gonna. And I was like, oh, she knew. So eventually, Gam said, "You can't stay here anymore." Same thing. She never locked her door her entire life. Except for when I wasn't sober. Like, every door was locked, and it was to keep me out. I lived in a car. I'd say my car, but it wasn't my car. I didn't have a car. And I wanted to go to where I felt safe, so I literally parked behind my grandma's house. And then, yeah. And then one day I didn't have a car to sleep in, so then I had to start staying with my drug dealers, and I just cried. I cried and was like, "I'm sorry." I want to do this, but I don't want to get in trouble for this. I don't want to be here with you guys. I just want to come here, but then leave right away. And that didn't work out. And then one day I was sitting at his house, and I just got this overwhelming feeling from God that I should think about finding somewhere to get some help. Because a few months prior to that, I actually said out loud, I don't know what's going to have to happen for me not to want to do this, because my life is fucked up and I have zero desire not to do this. But I also was conscious, but I don't want to get in trouble. Like, I'm not built for jail. I'm just not. And then a few months later, this feeling came over me, and I said to my guy best friend in addiction, I'm really thinking about finding somewhere to get some help. And he said, well, listen, there's this wonderful place called Foley House, and they would actually let you take Hunter with you. It's for women and their children. It's a residential program, but do not tell them that you know me. Okay. So I called, didn't tell them that my friend Dave told me about it. And they said, yeah, we have a 3 to 6 month waiting list. And I said, that's perfect. Yes, I will take an appointment. So they said, okay, we'll do your little intake tomorrow at 3. And I said, okay. And somehow my little drug addict self got there, probably not on time, but I got there. And I did my intake, and they said, you need to come back tomorrow. I said, wait, what happened to the 3 month to 6 month wait? Like that I'm ready for. I'm ready for the waiting list. And they said, no. Can you come back tomorrow? And I said, well, obviously I have a lot of things to take care of before I come in here. Things. So I went to my grandma's and said, listen, I'm going to this place that teaches you, it's like a job fair. And they're going to do some vocational, and I can't talk to anyone for 30 days. And I'm not thinking it's December and that Christmas is, in a few weeks. And she was like, thank God, bye. So I packed up Hunter and we went to Foley House, and God works in mysterious and wonderful ways. Because the day after I got to Foley House, I got served with papers that Hunter's dad wanted to file emergency custody and take my son. So, the counselors there said, promise me if you don't get to keep Hunter, you'll come back. And I said, I can't, I'm not promising you that. Which, again, why? Anyway, my sick little mind, but God has a perfect plan. So that judge saw fit to leave Hunter in rehab instead of South Orange County with his dad. So my little hostage stayed with me, and we were there for about four and a half months. And that's where I met Brina, who has been my sponsor almost my entire sobriety. And I don't know, God bless the people that come in and want to leave, whether it's treatment or AA. I got there and I was so incredibly grateful to be in a beautiful house with loving women, in my own room with my baby, where you just felt God in that house. I was just grateful. Whatever they told me to do, they could have told me to scrub the floor with my toothbrush. I would have scrubbed the floor with my toothbrush. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I was 100% done. I was just done. And we stayed there. During this time, I did see my oldest son. And I want to share some of the things that have not been fun to go through in sobriety, because I think it's important. There were a few things at the top of my list. You know, a lot of people come into AA or into treatment and they have this little laundry list of shit they want back right away. I did. And my son Tanner was at the top of that list. And the truth is, 25 years later, I can tell you I never got him back with me. He never lived with me again. And I had to choose to stay sober no matter what. And then now I have to deal with the guilt of him wondering, but you took my brother, but you didn't take me. He was already in elementary school. I was very much against moving him from place to place to place. I'll get into that in a minute. So my first year of sobriety, I went from rehab to a sober living. And that's what I needed. I needed to be surrounded by people that held me accountable. I'm really, really grateful that I stayed very connected to the house I got sober at. I was very involved until the day it closed down. Brina and I both were. I'm grateful that I was brought up by strong women in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm grateful that in that rehab, they asked me to take a look at every time I had drank alcohol. And I said, well, when I drink wild turkey because that's the most efficient way, to get completely trashed. Okay, all right. And I'm grateful that there was no reservation for me, that whatever feels good, tastes good, like I want more of it. And if I can do it instantly, that's what I want to do. I have had the pleasure of sponsoring women. I have had the honor of, depending on what's been going on in my life, working steps with many women. I remember Brina and I were talking in early-ish sobriety, and she was saying, I don't know if I can stay sober when my mom dies. And I said, I don't know if I'm going to stay sober when my grandma dies. So we're going to have to cross those bridges when we come to it. And Brina's mom passed first. And it was this unity of people in Alcoholics Anonymous showing up and checking on and being there with. And then breathing a sigh of relief that she was sober, maybe not okay for the first year, but I still have my best friend. She's still here. And then I don't remember how many years sober I was, but I had our youngest brother was 24 years old. They had sent him to my house to try to help him get sober because, she's sober. We've tried everything else. Put him on a bus. It didn't work. He went back to Utah. He was 24 years old. He was a heroin addict. He could not get this program. And I think I was maybe 6 or 7 years sober. And my brother ended his own life. And I was on my way to Hunter's baseball game, and my mom was already there. And I remember calling Brina on the phone and trying not to have a panic attack, but not feeling like I had the luxury of pulling over because I needed to get to her. And I told Brina, I don't want to do this. I do not want to have to tell my mother that my brother's dead. And I thought, this is now the worst thing I've ever had to do in my life, and sober. And that whole year is really a blur. I remember calling Brina from the hotel we were at in Utah, making funeral arrangements. And I just said, I want to drink. And I've always been aware of the fact that a relapse for me, 1,000,000% will start with a drink. Because doing meth after you've been sober this long does not sound like a good time. I'm also not confused that it would end with meth and whatever else. At that point, let's try whatever. But for me, I know a relapse for me will start with alcohol. And I just said, I want to drink. And she said, you can't. And then my phone was just full of women in Alcoholics Anonymous. Just person after person offering to drive to Utah and be with me. Yeah, I don't remember. During my addiction, I had lost contact with my only childhood friend because we had moved quite a bit. But there was one person that was my, friend forever. And she didn't understand addiction. She saw our lack of communication as a choice I was making. And when my brother died, again, this is a God thing. I went home, grabbed clothes. I opened my laptop and sent her an email saying, Wilson died. I'm on my way to Utah. Here's my cell phone number. And she called. So I got to connect with her during that time, and it was like no time had passed and we were never, separate. And I got that back out of that experience. And from that time, every year at Christmas time, we would all go there and spend time with her family. And I got through that first year of losing my brother. And then, somewhere in there, I got married to Hunter's dad. And then somewhere in there, I got divorced from Hunter's dad. And a few years after that, my best friend was dying. She's my age. And this was maybe five or 6 years ago. And I got to leave work, and Jamie came and stayed with Hunter, and I got to be there on her ride home from the hospital to be on hospice and be there with her until she took her last breath. And then I got to help her husband plan her funeral. And I thought, this is the hardest thing, or at least equal to my brother, that I've done in sobriety. And every single time I have been surrounded by people in Alcoholics Anonymous. Every single time there was something I thought I couldn't do, I was fortunate enough to have someone go through Foley House before I did. She went through Foley House. She had an 18-year-old daughter. And right as she was graduating Foley House and going into sober living, her daughter went missing. Her daughter's never been found, and Mary's still sober. And when Wilson died, I remember saying to Brina, if Mary Casper didn't drink, not knowing where her daughter was or what was happening to her, I don't get to drink over this. It's my brother, but it's not my child. So I have that little reservation. I have said if it was one of my kids, not promising what I'll do. So you stay good. But when I look back, I see divinely how God has put these people at these moments in my life, including now. I did not want to do this, y'all. I did not want to do this. People aren't really my thing. Talking's not my thing. One-on-one and eating snacks, especially candy, that's my thing. But there's a reason. There's a reason we're all here. I am so incredibly grateful for the life I live. I never thought in a million years that I would be married to someone that I can be 100% authentically my bitchy self. And I am. I've never been more comfortable than I am here in Williams. I've never been more at peace and content. My mom followed, my cousin and my almost half brother, Glenn, her husband, long story, are here. My brother followed and is sober, which he was a train wreck, and we all thought he was gonna die, like for sure. When we thought about losing a child, we always thought it would be Joe, not Wilson, which kind of messed me up because now I worry about my son dying, and then I'm like, I worry about Tanner dying, but maybe it's gonna be Hunter because we thought it was gonna be you. I have a son and a stepson in prison, both addicts. Both we can't get sober no matter what. It's the one thing that I sort of hold on to control and don't give to God. Even though, yes, I'm aware it won't change the outcome. I've done work on it, and I'll continue to do work on it. There comes a time when we won't regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. I'll never not regret what I did to my kids. But I'm aware of the fact I also wouldn't have this life without that. Alcoholics Anonymous is the single greatest thing that has ever happened in my life. I absolutely love AA. I'm a huge fan of finding a sponsor that you can be 100% honest with. You don't need to tell everyone your business, but I'm telling you right now, after I got sober and still had bad behavior and was a big fat liar, if I couldn't call Brina and tell her the dumb shit I did after I got sober, I would not have stayed sober. Mm-hmm. If I was made to feel like an idiot, I was an idiot, but if she wasn't, I needed loving, I needed compassion, I needed someone that told me eventually I was going to stop doing those things because I wasn't going to like the way it made me feel. That's what I needed to learn to make different choices. I'm grateful that I have a group of women in my life that hold me accountable. I definitely don't have the team of people that tell you what you want to hear, and I'm grateful for that. There's people that don't have that in their life, and lucky for me, everyone likes to tell me what I need to hear. And I'm grateful. I'm very, very grateful for that. For everyone that came tonight, for me, I love you. I love my Williams family. I have, friends that have become family here. Jamie, your undying support. I love you. Ride or die, no matter what. Brina driving 7 hours and being surprised about what I got you into. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're going to be fine now that it's over. To my brother and my mom and my niece and my nephews and my sister-in-law and my Glenn and all of you. Sammy, thank you for putting up with us. We're going to make Christmas snacks. Hunter, I love you. Thank you for putting up with me. Sammy, I'm sorry he's grumpy like me. I love all of you. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
Love you.